Bisbee, Arizona is a sleepy town in southern Arizona. The four-story, Victorian-style Copper Queen Hotel was built in 1902 and is still Arizona's oldest operational hotel today. Many people who live in or visit Bisbee are familiar with stories of ghostly encounters within the walls of this historic structure. The most famous sightings, according to the hotel's website, are those of Miss Julia Lowell. Miss Lowell worked as a prostitute in the hotel in the 1920s and 1930s. She eventually fell in love with one of her clients. She committed suicide in her room after her love was not reciprocated. Several guests have reported ghostly paranormal activity on the third and fourth floors of the hotel to this day. Some guests have reported hearing whispers or feeling a tap on the shoulder. Others have reported seeing levitating keys and doors mysteriously locking and unlocking. This paranormal activity initially draws customers to the hotel. However, many guests leave the estate by fleeing the grounds. Josie Arlington seemed destined for a life of pain and hardship after losing her mother in 1868, when she became an orphan at the age of 4. Her hometown of New Orleans offered no respite from her problems, so she turned to prostitution in the red light district in her adolescence. She made a name for herself as a violent and aggressive person. She allegedly bit off the ears and lips of another prostitute on one occasion. Her brother was later murdered by a pimp who worked in the same brothel where she did. Josie eventually decided to transform her life from one of despair to one of fortune and respect. She eventually built the best bordello in New Orleans. It catered to the elite, and she rose to prominence and wealth. Regardless, she was never accepted by the upper class, which she desperately desired. Resentful of how she was treated in life, she became determined to be buried in one of Metairie Cemetery's flashier, more expensive tombs. Following her death in 1914, apparitions began to appear at her tomb, which quickly became the cemetery's busiest location for paranormal activity. Her tomb was said to have burst into flames in front of terrified onlookers, earning it the moniker, Flaming Tomb. Witnesses claimed to have seen the statue in front of the tomb physically move on its own over time. Despite the fact that there was no verifiable evidence of paranormal activity at the site, hundreds of people continued to gather at her grave in the hopes of seeing something supernatural. As a result, cemetery officials exhumed Josie's body and relocated it to an unknown location, where it still remains today. Even today, some visitors claim to have seen the urns glow red at the tomb where Josie once lay, and gravediggers continue to report the statue shifting from its original location. On weekends, the historic Ole Tavern on George Street in Jackson, Mississippi, quickly fills with regulars. However, when the bar closes late at night and only a few employees remain, souls from the dark past run amok. According to numerous stories, the bar's employees and owners have questioned their beliefs and fled the premises in fear at times. Chairs and desks are said to move around upstairs on their own, lights turn on in empty rooms, and strange female voices speak on the phone. When the tavern is closed and the padlocks are bolted in the early morning hours, an employee may notice someone, possibly a ghost, sitting at the bar. When the tavern was a brothel in the 1970s, a prostitute was discovered dead there. Her cause of death is still unknown, but the tavern's owner suspects suicide or murder. Is this the female voice on the other end of the phone, crying out from beyond the grave? The Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, California, has hosted numerous celebrities, including Clark Gable, Carole Lombard, and Rin Tin Tin, Hollywood's beloved German Shepherd, since the early 1910s. Despite the inn's history and the famous people who once stayed there, many people are drawn to the hotel because of the numerous stories of ghosts who refuse to leave. A girl with blonde braids wanders into the rooms of unsuspecting guests and is frequently misidentified as a lost child, according to the stories. Contractors have also fled the property after witnessing children playing in the halls and then vanishing into the walls. Rooms 218 to 306 and 307 are especially popular with guests looking for a glimpse of the paranormal. On a few occasions, the doors of these empty rooms are said to have locked their deadbolts by themselves from the inside. The most terrifying stories, however, come from room 307, where the spirit of a woman can still be found. The unidentified woman was apparently a prostitute who was murdered and beheaded. A maid discovered her body stuffed in a closet several days later. To this day, reports of cold chills, knocking sounds, echoing voices, and an eerie mist persist. The Mispa Hotel, like many other establishments built during the early 20th century Nevada mining rush, was built for settlers in 1907. It was Nevada's tallest structure until 1929. Guests at the hotel included Wyatt Earp and Howard Hughes. Evelyn Mae Johnson, aka the Lady in Red, is the most famous guest to date. Johnson, legend has it, lived in the hotel and worked as a prostitute under the alias Rose. In 1914, she was entertaining another man when a jealous ex-lover unexpectedly walked in on her. This enraged the ex-lover to murderous rage. Rose was chased out of her room and into the hallway, where she was repeatedly strangled and stabbed. She has been seen in the hotel hallways, inside the elevator, and in room 504, where she used to live, since her murder. Sightings of the Lady in Red are frequently accompanied by a memento from the other side, a single pearl placed on a nightstand or pillow, perhaps to remind the living that she is still present.